Greetings everyone, my name is Jesse Boudreau and I'm a permaculturalist and herbalist in Chimayo.
And I'm Johanna Boudreau. We both have the company Zia Energetics Permaculture, and we are here today to talk about our alliance with Flower Hill Institute in Jemez Pueblo. We're going to share some foraging information to contribute to the sovereignty of our earth community.
So one of our favorite plants of all is the very great dandelion. So this wonderful plant is in the aster family, and it has the aster family all has this type of flower where it's many flowers inside a flower. And the interesting thing is that it's called a star, aster. These kind of have a resonance with the sun, I feel. And there's a lot, it's the widest family, the biggest family on the earth, the aster family. So all parts of this beautiful plant can be used. The leaves are very high in iron. The root is, and the entire plant, but particularly the root, is very good for kidney, urinary tract, and liver. Here's a beautiful root my lovely just brought. So you can chop these up and throw them into your stir fry or your stew, or what have you. You can also roast them and make a caffeine-free coffee that is detoxifying. You can also eat the flowers, and when the flowers turn to seeds, you can just grab that tuft and turn it over and just nibble the seed. And that's also detoxifying to the liver and kidneys. Very high in nutrient. Hannah was just reading something this morning.
The leaves are very high in vitamin K, which is very helpful in the blood circulation. And if you eat the entire plant, the roots, leaves, and flower, then you are getting all the nutrients you need, and it is complete protein, and it's the nutrients in eating just the whole dandelion plant is equivalent to eating an entire week's worth of groceries from the grocery store.
So super nutrient dense. This is one of the things we want to drive home, is the nutrient density and plant medicine. The phytochemistry of the plants is so much stronger than anything you can buy in the store. So you can eat a little and get a lot more from it and feel the satiety that you need and actually have everything covered. So that's number one survival plant. You can feed your family on it. It's very readily grown, very readily found. We'll always want to honor and replant, obviously, and tend, but a great, great hero and ally.
Dandelion's very medicinal, as well as a very nutritive and safe building food to eat.
Also diuretic in action. It's also called pissenlit in French, which just means wet the bed. So if you're having urinary trouble, it can stimulate, urination. Love him. Okay, so our next plant hero is in the Malva family. And I want to speak to this for a moment. I highly suggest a book called Botany in a Day. It teaches the plant families and their signatures so that you can know the whole family without having to learn all the individual plants. So this is mallow, or cheese wheel, and it is a mucilaginous demulcent plant. So that means it's soothing to digestion, and it's also going to be a nutritive herb. There's several kinds of this plant. Some are more gray, and they have these little hollyhock-like flowers. In fact, hollyhock is in the Malva family.
And hibiscus as well.
So you can eat the greens of all these and the flowers of these. You can eat the roots. And the one that is kind of gray, called globe mallow with an orange blossom, is one that was used to wash your hair, because that demulcent activity will just kind of stimulate hair growth and soothe the cells of your hair.
And the root of the mallow is really important in keeping the kidneys healthy. When you combine it with horsetail and corn silk, it makes a wonderful soothing kidney tea so that your kidneys can feel better if they've been over toxified or they just need that nourishment in the spring.
So, wonderful power plant, mallow, or malva species. All right, so our next great plant friend is mustard, and we have many mustards. This is one you probably have seen in your garden and pulled out a lot. It's delicious. You can eat the greens. And all these greens that are coming up at this time of year, dandelion, mallow, mustard, are going to be purgative. So they're going to stimulate bile production and start detoxing. It's a natural time of year to start detoxing. If you think about winters, eating heavy food, being sedentary more, it's time to detoxify. So mustard's a great detoxifier, and we have several kinds here in New Mexico. This is another one right here, and I wanted to show you this one because the telltale way to identify these mustards, because you can tell how different by looking at this the leaves are from the other one we looked at. This one's more kind of lobed and less frilly, but the main identifying feature is the cross-shaped flower. It's a cruciferous plant. So cruciferous plants are all those plants that we get in the grocery store, like broccoli and kale and cabbage and arugula, and many plants are mustard plants. They're a good species. The whole species of mustards are edibles.
There's two families that are really safe, the grass family and the mustard family, and all across the species you can eat all of them.
And there are many plant families that are very safe, and that's why I suggest learning plant families, is because then you can know the general use of that plant. There will be certain specific plants that you have to be aware of, but by and large, there are, like the rose family is all of the stone fruits and rose hips, and it's all edible. So we won't get into that right now. We'll just keep it simple. So one of the other identifying features of mustard is, like, you can see how this leaf almost kind of looks like arugula. It has these toothy bites, and this one has that as well, sort of. It's just way more exaggerated. So what we suggest, if in case you're wanting to, not sure about the identification of one of these foods, is you could just take, one little leaf, just taste it on the end of your tongue, and let it roll around. And you're a very sensitive chemical, biological laboratory, so to speak, and we're very good at sensing what is good to take down and what isn't so good. And don't be fooled by bitter. Bitter is one of the things we definitely need to bring in. This is a pungent plant, so that means it's warming to digestion. Anything that's pungent is like chili or garlic or warming foods. So this will stimulate your digestion, stimulate bile production, and it's good.
So we never recommend taking in more than one new plant at a time. It's always good to experiment very slowly and get to know the plants through your intuition and listen to what they have to say to you.
Yeah, and get, in a sense, meditation is one of the things we really like to share in our classes, of like, we all have this awareness that we can key into, that looking at the plants, smelling them, tasting them, it can be a meditation of your relationship with these wonderful teachers.
So the next plant we're going to talk about is the grass family, and this is one of our favorites, and it's a huge favorite the world over. There's so many grasses. One of the sacred plants we have here that we really revere in New Mexico and in tribal culture is the corn. And we do have an old corn plant here, but we also want to show you the green grass growing here. This is like an orchard grass. And what we like to do with this is juice it. We cut it up into tiny pieces and stick it in a blender with some apples or lemons or ginger. Make whatever kind of juice you want to create, add some other fruits to it, or drink it by itself. If you're just in the wild, you can chew on it and just spit out the fibers and
Just suck
drink
the
down the
juice.
juice. But yeah, corn is a grass as well. Do you want to talk about that?
Well, all of the staple crops across the earth are grasses. Wheat, rice, corn. Trying to think of other grass crops. Those are some of the main ones. And the point I'd like to speak to is the fact that in this form, as green grass like that, it has basically all the nutrients you need in terms of vitamins and essential minerals. So, like Hannah said, you can just chew it. Any grass anywhere on the planet is edible. You can just chew it and suck that juice down, and that's detoxifying and nutritive. However, the seeds, when we grow corn, it's very important to do what's called nixtamalization, which is preparation with wood ash, because otherwise you can get the disease called pellagra, which is a wasting disease. If you use corn as a staple food without nixtamalizing it, it can actually make you sick. Also, if you look at the overuse of wheat in our culture and other carbs, those tend to lead to candida in the body, and especially if not soaked and sprouted properly.
That's what the way our ancestors used to prepare the grasses was when they would eat the seeds of the grasses, they would soak them or sprout them as well before even eating them, because they knew that this would unlock the nutrients and not cause these wasting diseases that we see today.
And that was done all over the earth. Oats is another grass. In Ireland, they would take the sheaves of oats and put them up, and when it's Ireland, it's wet, so they would soak and they'd sprout, and ferment. And so that's how you get greater digestibility of grass seeds if you're going to be using grasses. All right, so our next plant hero is dock. Right here we have curly dock, or yellow dock. It's called curly dock. You see how that one's curly, and it kind of looks like a big deer's tongue. Sometimes they have this like little flaky, papery like coating on it. It's kind of rubbery. I'll pick one here for you to see kind of the whole. Hopefully you can see that. It's hard to do the filming when it's just us, but that's kind of what it looks like. Probably pretty familiar with this plant. It grows all over New Mexico, and it's a terrific plant. You can use these greens. You can eat them raw, but they're high in oxalic acid, so it's really better if you can, wilt them, put them in a stir fry or put them in a stew, or enchiladas, or something like that. You can also use the root, and it's high in iron, but it also helps the body assimilate iron. So particularly good for women's health.
Yes. And also, there's a little saying that I read in one of our teacher's books. It says, "Pick the greens when they're young and sour, grind the seeds to make your own flour." And dock is in the buckwheat family.
So we gather these seeds up and winnow them, and strip off the chaff and make them into breads. We'll take oats, whole oat groats, or you could collect wild grass seeds and buckwheat seeds, soak and sprout them. After cleaning them and winnowing them, you soak and sprout them. You can add fruits, or you can make them savory or whatever with herbs like rosemary or what have you, and you just make them into these little loaves that you can bake in the sun. And you just leave them out to ferment in the sun for a few days, and they bake. They get a crusty outside, and they're fermented and sprouted. So it's that dense nutrient, once again, that's available right here, right in our backyard, aplenty, and we're just all overlooking it until now. Right now, it's time to get ready and get steady. So this is a powerhouse, dock. All right, the last plant hero we want to share with y'all today is the great elm tree. Now, everyone in New Mexico hates elms, the Chinese elm, right?
Not everyone.
Not us. This thing is all food and medicine all the way down, this great big old tree behind us. So we love to harvest the little seeds here in the spring when they're green like this, and you can do it all the way until they're papery brown. But we just throw them in our salads. We make, like, we call it gorilla popcorn. It's like kale chips, where you just put salt and oil and I'm gonna keep this over here. Salt and oil and bruised yeast, garlic, whatever, and it's like popcorn. It's better. And the thing about elm is it's this tree, right? So it's got this deep root, and it's pulling all this nutrient up from the broad soil profile. So it's not like a lot of our store-bought vegetables that are just raised on nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. These things have like zinc and selenium, magnesium, chromium, copper, all those trace minerals that your body needs, your electromagnetic body needs.
And you can eat the leaves, the seeds, the inner bark, and when you have a sore throat, you can use the tea from the inner bark. It's also known as slippery elm, so it's a very soothing remedy for a sore throat.
And you can take that bark, that inner cambium layer, and fry it in oil, and it's like bark bacon. You can put a little salt on it or whatever, and that's highly nutritive as well. And then we grow mushrooms on these, so we'll cut some old elms in the spring while the energy is still in the wood and not pushing out into the leaf, and we'll inoculate with oyster mushrooms. And you can just get oyster mushrooms from the forest and crush them up in a thing of water and douse these logs in that, and they can inoculate and start producing a crop for you. So many uses, so many benefits of this tree. And we want to wrap up now. It's kind of got long, but we would share so many more plants. We're definitely going to be doing a lot of this in the future, and we'd love to just collaborate with any and everyone out there to gain health and sovereignty for everyone at this time. And the last thing I want to share with respect to that is fasting. Spring, as we were talking about earlier, is the time for detox. It's a time when your body naturally wants to fast. The circadian rhythms are right. So it's a very good thing that's accessible to everyone. You can do many kinds of fast. Intermittent fasting, where you fast for maybe 16 hours a day, just no sugar or fats, just tea or water that hasn't been sweetened, and then eat whatever you want for the rest of the day, for the next 8 hours, and then do it the next day, and so on. Or you can do like water fasts, or juice fasts, or dry fasts, and these are all different levels of fasting. But fasting has been shown to reboot the immune system. 3 days of water fasting has been studied and will totally reboot the immune system. So that's something super key right now that everyone can use.
And right now, while we're all quarantined, so to speak, which means staying to yourself and fasting, it's a wonderful time. And springtime is a great time of year to fast as well, to clean your body from the inside out.
And go within and meditate and do the spiritual cleaning out of your consciousness, because that's where, as everyone knows, it's most ripe. The juicy life is inside. So thank you very much for your time, everyone. I want to wish you wellness, blessings, and abundance.
Wholeness.